There are two elements of character which a man should possess, develop, and maintain, unstained if he would find favor in feminine eyes. The first is bravery. The second, indomitableness of resolution. So likewise, there are two elements of character which a woman should possess, develop, and maintain, unstained, if she would find favor in masculine eyes. The first is sympathy. The second, sweetness of temper. A curious and latent hostility divides the sexes. It seems as they could not approach each other without allurums and excursions. Always the presence of one rouses anxiety in the breast of the other. They stand to arms. They resort to tactics. They maneuver. And men and women approach each other visorized and in armor. But it is often only to conceal the craven heart that beats beneath the brazen cuirass. Men judge of women, not so much by their intrinsic worth, as by the impression women make upon them. And women know this, since all women are alive to the fact that impressing, it is perhaps highly unfortunate that to this word is attached a twofold signification, of men is the important function of life. Accordingly, great stress is, and is naturally, laid by women upon dress and the subtleties of the toilet. For, in matters of the heart, man is led by the heart and not by the head, though, as Mr. Grant Allen has endeavored to show, this is as scientific a method as any. And why not? Since it is generally a sweet heart, not a hard head, that a man wants. In short, men are oftener vanquished by a look than by logic, by a gracious smile than by good sense, by manner and even by dress than by mental development or depth. This is to say, a man judges a woman by her appearance, a woman judges a woman by her motives, and a woman judges of a woman's motives by what she knows of her own. So it comes about that, to a man, a woman's heart is something mysterious. But women, who know their own hearts, have little difficulty in reading others'. No units of measurement yet devised are adequate for the computation of the power wielded by a beautiful woman. That is a significant fact, and probably could we fathom all the profundities and unravel all the entanglements of the relations between the sexes, as deep and as intricate as significant, that no woman thinks a man can pay her a higher compliment than to wish to make her his own. For though woman thinks man her ultimate aim and desire, nature knows that man is but the stepping stone to the child. In the end, woman agrees with nature. We may go farther and say, women are nearer the eternal laws than are men. Men govern themselves by the laws they themselves make. Women are lawless. Laws are for the temporal, the fleeting, for a given individual in a given society, for a particular race in a particular clime. Such laws are obeyed by women only under compulsion. They, more far-seeing than men, instinctively peer far beyond the ephemeral rules manufactured by men, into the realms of laws eternal and immutable. These she obeys implicitly, unquestioningly, much to man's amazement, and, it may be, his mortification, for he sees that she is freer than he. This is why, for the man she truly loves, a woman will sacrifice everything. Everything. The same generous sentiment cannot by any means be attributed to man. Both the wise man and the wise woman, but here I am reminded of the recipe for hare soup. Between the sexes there is in reality but one link, the link amatory. And so long as nature maintains two sexes, so long will men and women hug, yet chafe under, that slender but invisible bond. Not even Cupid and Psyche avoided a misunderstanding, in spite of the devotion of the other. And if men and women differ in matters amatory, it is because men and women have trodden different evolutionary paths. The man, given up to the chase for pelts or pelf, and careful of his status in the tribe, thinks only of himself and the present. The woman, her sole care the nurture of her offspring, thinks only of her progeny and the future. But since the family is the unit of the state, therefore the state makes laws, not for love, but for the family. Happy that family the parents of which are bound by cosmic, not by municipal affection. Nevertheless, say what one will, love scoffs at laws. A man can never know too much. Perhaps a woman can. And it is a question how far a man admires a woman who knows too much. For, if there is nothing a man can teach a woman, not even of the ways of love, the man is apt to be chagrined. Besides, too much knowledge is inimical to romance. War is a man's true trade, love woman's. There is no stronger argument against the equality of the sexes than a woman's hand. It was made to toil? No, to place in her lovers. In truth, is there anything more fragile in nature than a woman's hand? But put it in her lovers, and what a force it has. Anomaly of anomalies. With women, frugality, delicacy, dependence, beauty, grace. It is by these weak weapons that she wins. Many women forget that things which men have no objection to their female friends doing, they often have a very particular objection to their mothers, sisters, and wives doing. So too they often forget that it is not the girl he flatters, compliments, and is conspicuously attentive to that the man always marries. Perhaps this goes to show that there is a deeper and more serious current in the flow of male emotions, which, much as light and fitful breezes may stir the surface, is moved only by and mingles only with a similar and confluent stream. For it is not man's highest instincts that are stimulated by the more superficial of feminine blandishments, though no doubt many a man there is has been made permanently captive by their lure. The truth is that man is a many-sided creature. He will reflect many different rays, but it is only under the ray that pierces the surface and irradiates the interior that he truly glows. Woman does not lean upon man because she is inferior, but rather because she is his supporter, just as the buttress leans upon the building, but the building would fall without the buttress. That is, woman's dependence upon man is his chief source of strength. Those who cannot understand this may be left to their ignorance. It is not all women who comprehend the exaltation of mind into which some men are thrown by their presence. Indeed, men put a higher value upon a woman's complacence than she does herself. To a woman, feminine concession appears trivial. Is it any wonder, then, that woman calls man's jealousy unreasonable? In reality, the affianced man thinks he has gotten him an angel from heaven. It is not within the bounds of mortal male comprehension that such an angel should sully her wings. Women know their sex, which, if it is a truism that men often forget. And few things permit a man to see so far into the subtleties and intricacies of feminine hearts as a squabble between two of them over himself. A man in defeat generally turns to woman. A woman in defeat is either scornful, silent, or both. A man in depression falls back upon his only weapon, brute force. A woman in like circumstances does the same, but her weapon is personal charm. In matters amatory and material, a woman will risk more than will a man. In fact, in matters amatory and material, woman is the truly combative animal. Many are the members of the one sex that are entrapped by the wiles of the other. But it often happens that the entrapper afterwards rues the capture as much as, or even more, than the entrapped. So it often happens that girls who are deliberately seeking husbands think love may be won by artifice. Not until well on in years do women know that, by men, love and artifice are considered mortal foes. To win him a wife by artifice would be to a man a thing impossible and abhorrent. Yet to win her a husband by artifice is to a woman a thing quite natural. But when, if ever, the man discovers that he has won by artifice, there are apt to be several bad quarters of an hour. For when all is said and done, the man, free and easy, thoughtless and untrammeled, knowing he may pick and choose, never chooses till there comes the woman he thinks he wants. Then he says point blank he wants her. Should it ever be revealed to him that his want was the result of her artifice, a very different complexion is put upon that want. On the other hand, the woman, deprived of the power of choice, trammeled by convention, bound to wait till asked for, quite naturally resorts to artifice, and yet, curiously enough, and a thing incomprehensible by man, a man whom a woman has won by sheer artifice she can love to the end of her life. But after all, what a refuge to man is work, or play. Alas, woman has no refuge. So, men cannot suffer long, women do. A man flies to work, or sport, or to the gaming table, or to drink. A woman, he who can tell what a woman does in the sorrow of the soul, will tell us much. Some women, in sorrow of soul, eat out their hearts in silence. Other women, in sorrow of soul, will tell us much. Some women, in sorrow of soul, eat out their hearts in silence. Other women, in sorrow of soul, eat out the hearts of others, not in silence. But take a taciturn woman seriously, for always a taciturn woman has suffered much. A taciturn woman is a lonely one, and probably it is only women who really know loneliness. Give a man a full meal and an outlet for his energy, he is fairly contented, for a man always has friends or a club. Women rarely have either. The most superb of physical charms are powerless unless fired by imagination, as the most destructive of explosives is harmless without a cap or a detonator. But, given a detonator, and the coarsest powder can work tremendous havoc. What precisely will bring a particular man to her feet? That is, par excellence, the feminine problem. And many and various are the experiments by which she tries to resolve it. And few are the men who learn that were won by experiment. For man succumbs to his emotions. He cannot comprehend how it is that into feminine emotion calculation often enters. As there are two classes of warriors, so there are two classes of women. There is the warrior who conquers the world for sheer love of conquest, an Alexander, a Genghis Khan, an Attila, a Napoleon. And there is the warrior who captures a kingdom for the sake of possession, such as your Norman William. So there is the woman whom no conquest contents. And there is the woman who is happy with a husband and home. Deborah, Vilmia, Calpurnia, mother of Gracchi. One thing from men women cannot abide, and this is a hostile and reasonable attitude. And naturally, since it is only man's reason that is hostile to women. And when a man clothes himself with reason as with a garment, woman slinks away, and quite naturally, reason and emotion are mortal foes, and it is on the field of emotion that the battle of love must be fought. For in the battle of love, the woman chooses and entrenches her position. The man has to act on the offensive. But only emotion can cope with emotion. Reason but beats the air. Wherefore, a wise man will neither oppose nor appeal to a woman through reason. Who can penetrate to the motives of a woman's coaxings? Yet foolish is the man who questions the motives of a woman's coaxings. Yet, not to be sure of a woman's coaxings, not upon this side Plegathon is there a more poignant position. In loving one woman, a man believes in all women, and not till a woman is loved are her fingertips objects of devoutest worship. On the other hand, it cannot be said that in loving one man, a woman believes in all men, which little distinction is proof, perhaps, that love blinds the eyes of men, but opens the eyes of women. In other words, passion obfuscates man's prevision. It does not obfuscate a woman's. Man gives the rein to passion, or ere he knows whither it leads. A woman gives the rein to passion only after she has found out whither it leads. But when the goal is known, perhaps women are more implacable votaries of the implacable goddess than are men. That is to say, a woman keeps her head till she can give her heart, then she gives it utterly. A man, perhaps because he has no heart, soon enough loses his head. So, before the gift, a woman's qualms exasperate the man. After the gift, the man's indifference exasperates the woman. It is folly to think that love and friendship exhaust the varieties of human relationships. The relationships between earthly souls are as complex and multiform as those between heavenly bodies. In one thing does friendship excel love. It is always reciprocal. One friend presupposes another. Not so a lover. Friendship is largely a masculine sentiment, except among schoolgirls. The friendship that exists between a man and a woman should be called by another name. It cannot be wholly platonic. I use the word in its purely conventional sense. It need not be wholly askew. Yet women generally strive to make it the one, and men often try to make it the other. And yet again, how many women there be would, if they could, transmute love into friendship? That is to say, women regard a man's friendship as a delicate flattery to themselves, yet they instinctively know, though they try hard to forget, that a man's friendship for a woman is extremely likely to transcend the bounds of friendship. If only friendship would keep within bounds. How many women deceive themselves into thinking that were devoutly to be wished? Yet probably, as a matter of fact, the very woman who avers she regrets that her friendship is not mere platonic would resent the platonism did it exist. Possibly not every woman will understand this. Assuredly, no woman will admit it. And yet, it is impossible to conjecture in what an exchange of confidences may terminate. It may be a kiss, or it may be a quarrel. But confidences are evoked rather by friendship than by love. A woman will tell a man friend what she will not tell a lover. Few lovers will understand this. Fewer still will believe it. Yet it is true, and the explication of its truth would be long and complex. This much may be said. Love idolizes. Friendship does not. At the same time, love probes the innermost recesses of the womanly nature, and until the woman is wholly won, the woman resents the inspection of love. She knows that, to stimulate love, the woman must conceal, not reveal. Furthermore, never was there a man who could be at once friend and lover, which is only one more proof that never will the sexes understand each other. The male was ever the more susceptible sex, and for this reason, next to sympathy, flattery is perhaps woman's most effective weapon, and no masculine shield there is which woman's flattery will not pierce. For man alert in the hunt, keen in business, circumspect with his fellows, terrible in war, man is pristine and simple in manners emotional, and an easy prey to emotional wiles. In the long journey of evolution from amoeba to man, the masculine sex has developed muscle and mind. The feminine sex developed and perfected the emotions. Accordingly, man's emotions are the primitive weapons of a savage. Woman's emotions are arms of precision. Yet sometimes woman deplores the unequal contest, perhaps deplores her too easy victory. Since in domestic life the weapons are laid aside, the pair are then presumably unarmed and defenseless. For though a mat has to be won by weapons, marriage should be a treaty of peace. Therefore the combatants are allies. Many a man, when ensnared, has been amazed at the size of the meshes. Only a woman knows by what open methods floundering men are captured. He who by reasoning thinks to find out woman must either be a philosopher or a fool, probably both. Less of a philosopher and more of a fool is he who thinks to extract from woman her reasons for her actions. The woman who can give reasons for an action is yet to be born. The reason is plain. Women act upon intuition, not upon reason. And he who could make a logical sorites out of feminine intuitions could make a philosophical system out of nautical almanacs. And yet probably, could we only determine her orbit, a woman's intuitions are as exact as the paths of the planets. Unfortunately, such are the perturbations to which a woman's orbit is exposed that no masculine astronomy can construct its ephemeris. Alack, how many anxious stargazers are there among men? The orbit of the ordinary male man it is not as difficult for a woman to compute, inasmuch as the ordinary male man revolves unusually about two foci, his appetites and his ambitions. Which is the major and which is the minor? However, you may trust women to know when he is in peri and when in ephilia. Many a spouse has no difficulty in explaining away to her lord actions about the character of which even his initiate friends have no shadow of doubt. For a woman's perception is preternatural, but no, it is natural enough, since from the days of the first woman to the days of the new one, love, its wiles and its whims, has been the serious business of woman. Women know much better than men that stolen bread is sweetest. In consequence, men steal almost everything they get from women. At least they think they do, which is the same thing. If the sexes were to change places, more marriage licenses would be taken out. Frailty, says man, thy name is woman, and then he takes advantage of it. At arm's length it is difficult to offer a helping hand, yet it is hazardous to reduce that distance. Neglect is the unpardonable sin in a woman's eyes. Woe to the man who is guilty of it. If a woman possessed only a man's tact, what fallings out there would be. Man's summum bonum is to combine a comfortable home with congenial club. Woman's summum bonum is the almost equally incompatible combination of a well-regulated family and the height of fashionable gaiety. Man's infimum malum is domestic distraction. Woman's infimum malum is social exile. Between man and man, to lay another under pecuniary obligation is to jeopardize friendship. Between man and woman, a like cause brings about an opposite result. The man with something of the feminine about him often knows better than his more masculine rivals how to work upon feminine susceptibilities. Most women know how much to leave to a man's imagination, but then man has not much imagination. Besides, man's imagination is always highly complementary to woman. Affinity covereth a multitude of sins. To attract sometimes requires temporary repulsion, but some women miscalculate their satellite's orbit, with the result that either it rushes on to certain destruction or it passes beyond the limits of gravitation. The woman who to one man is no more than the substratum of frock and bonnet is to another man the center of gravity of the created cosmos. When she is in such center to more than one man, her horoscope is difficult to cast. When one heart lays siege to another, both sides throw up entrenchments, and this even when both belligerents are ready to negotiate for surrender. But never show that you expect capitulation, and flank movements are not to be recommended. In conversation, the last thing a woman expects from a man is information, unless it be information concerning himself. In fact, talk is a mere subterfuge. It is what is left unsaid that tells. Nevertheless, when once the trough has been plighted, both M and N try to utter what has been left unsaid, but always with indifferent success. Alack and well-a-day, can love ever say what it feels? It is difficult to say to which sex it is greater compliment that widows always prove such successful fascinators. Either they still have a penchant for mankind, despite their intimate acquaintance with him, in which case the men may congratulate themselves, or else they have so completely found men out that they find no difficulty in entrapping them, in which case it is the women's turn to applaud. When our feelings are unwittingly hurt by a beautiful woman, the pain is largely tempered by a subtle pleasure, which proceeds from a feeling that, inasmuch as we have been undeservedly pained, we merit her sympathy, perhaps even her affection. Women seek not so much man's esteem as his admiration. In fact, women would rather attract than inspire. Indeed, by him who dared, it might be added that women would rather be kissed than be sonneted, which is mighty lucky for the majority of men. The most interesting man or woman is, well, perhaps the one most interested in us. The least interesting man or woman is, well, perhaps the one most interested in him or herself. Never fear but that one woman will urge your suit with another, unless of course that other is a rival. For matchmaking is one of the most fascinating of feminine avocations. When a woman allows it to be understood that she considers herself irresistible to the other sex, she draws upon herself the odium of her own. By the other sex, however, such a woman is very differently regarded. Indeed, men regard the avowed coquette not at all with malice, but with a very opposite feeling, of which perhaps amusement, admiration, and a certain amicable defiance are the chief ingredients. It is only mountains that are volcanic or are snow-capped. The plains know nothing of extremes of frigidity or fire. To the woman whom he has ceased to love, the man is sometimes unconsciously cruel. Towards the man whom she has ceased to love, the woman commonly acts a part. For a woman to humiliate one man in the presence of another is an offense which neither of the men is likely to forget, nor will the one man have a less unpleasant recollection of it than the other. It is curious to listen to the explanations by one woman of the reasons of the attractiveness of another woman. Very apt is she to say that the other woman is too free and easy, too liberal of her favors, too expansive of her sympathy, too exhibitive of her charms. Women know women, and women know that women know men, and women know that men do not know women. Men, in this respect, are somewhat different. A man usually regards not ungenerously the qualities of his successful rival. A woman never. The former will candidly admit the possession of a more potent charm. The latter will trace it to the crudest of causes. In a word, the unsuccessful man blames not his rival, nor the woman he loses, but himself. The unsuccessful woman blames never herself, but either the outrageous meretriciousness of her rival, or the blindness of the man she loses, from which it may once more be deduced that men are won by more primitive means than are women. And alas for men, alas also for many women, the majority of men are so blind, so abominably blind, that they cannot distinguish the women who are really in love with them from the women who pretend to be in love with them but are not. For because so completely do women know men, that it is easy for any woman to delude any man. This is one of the reasons why every woman is the rival of every other woman. This woman will be herself, her own true, simple, and virtuous self, will resort to no subterfuge, adopt no meretricious methods, scorn to rely upon tactics or strategy, be ever reserved, reluctant, shy, yet fail. This other woman will openly and blatantly, overtly and unconcernedly assail the masculine heart with word and look and gesture, and win. The purblindness of the masculine heart, how it exasperates even the woman. The man has sunk low who cannot recognize and respect the remnant of sex even in a degraded woman. Women can persuade themselves and men far more easily than can a man of the propriety of their actions. Man is powerless before an injured woman. He has no more dangerous foe than this. It is the man who seeks excuses. The woman braves it out. Coquetry is love's lady's maid. She is accessory and ancillary to love. She bedesens love. She tricks her out in gay apparel. When love's lord and master enters, my lady's maid is dismissed. It might be as well sometimes to recall her, and nudity oust coquetry. Chastity is a word with as many shades of meaning as there are peoples, perhaps as there are individuals upon the face of this habitable world. Women think chastity is a virtue primarily insisted upon and enforced by men. They mistake. It is a virtue primarily insisted upon and enforced by women. For when that divine, unique thing love comes to a woman, if she not be chaste, it is she who deplores the fact. The man may easily enough be deceived. Her own heart a woman can never deceive. Besides, with what righteous indignation women themselves visit unchastity. Between the sexes, resentment is the worst of defensive weapons. In the hands of a man, it is like a cowhide shield opposed to Mauser bullets. In the hands of a woman, like a parasol on a cloudy day. Since woman penetrates resentment by ridicule, man treats it with dull indifference, and a snub from a woman is never forgotten, and for two reasons. because A, the Lord of creation hates to be floored by the jujitsu of feminine rivalry, and because B, the last thing a man expects from a ministering angel is mundane mockery. Besides, deliberate derision murders not only affection, but admiration. A blush needs no apologies. Why? Because always a blush is spontaneous, uncontrollable, and if there is any one thing a man likes to see, it is a spontaneous and uncontrollable action in woman. When the man has declared himself hers and hers alone, has given proof of the truth of such declaration, has bound the woman to himself by terms dictated by herself, then, but not till then, the woman acts spontaneously and without control. Then she blushes. But seek not, impulsive masculine lover, to explore too many of the mysteries of this thy feminine helpmeet. Perchance she feels herself so much above thee that she blushes to give the herself. Perchance she regards thee so much a symbol of the godlike that she blushes for because she is not more worthy. But far more probably she blushes for because she betrays to thee a mortal, a divine and cosmic secret. For there is a divine and cosmic secret hidden beneath every blush. Ah, man, piquant, impulsive, passionate man, little knowest thou of the divine and cosmic secret that underlies love. To thee, O man, it may be, it is a momentary flash that irradiates the world and reveals for a moment a sky above that world. To thee, O woman, it is the reverberating thunder that echoing rolls forever after unceasing in thy ears. Is this why, between a man and a woman, a single look will sometimes change the complexion of an intimacy of a lifetime? And not until that look comes, not until eyes look into eyes with a penetration supernatural, is acquaintanceship metamorphosed into love. It is a favorite fiction amongst women that a rejected suitor either will not marry or marries the first girl he meets, because to marry another woman, after having offered inalienable and unalterable fidelity to one, would otherwise be a blow to amour propre. And yet, strangely enough, or perhaps not so strangely, this is a fiction but rarely maintained with regard to her own cardiac transportations. And for this reason, woman is, and knows herself to be, a multiple personality. Man, a tyro of emotions, is cast in a simpler mold. So, a woman may donate herself piecemeal, or over and over again, yet deem herself perfectly loyal, and perhaps naturally and legitimately, for that man who will comprehend and appreciate all the intricacies of feminine emotion, but there is no such being existent. Indeed, even self-revelation is a task no daughter of Eve has achieved. To sum up, between men and women, the consummation of love is a bodily oblation, the outcome of spiritual obsession. Must I explain this? No, I shall not. Suffice it to say that the heavenly Aphrodite is true friend to the earthly. So nothing offends love, since love finds in all that savors of the mortal only a symbol and epitome of the supernatural. And there is in love a cosmic force and secret incomprehensible, incommunicable by man. Is not, after all, love the one supreme and significant fact of the cosmos, indelible, indecipherable, efflorescing in man, emerging from the material, idolizing the carnal, pointing to an inscrutable, a spiritual goal? Can it be that, if we could explain love, we should explain the cosmos? What if we could explain why it is that no one single isolated portion of the cosmos can live alone, and vaunt itself in itself sufficient, but must seek some other single and isolated portion of the cosmos in order that that very cosmos shall continue, shall evolve, shall go towards its goal? Do we put our finger here upon some curious and recondite cosmic fact, utterly transcending our mean comprehension?